But all right, welcome back to another episode of The Macro Perspective. We're really excited about today's episode. We have a very, I feel like, to be honest, Nick, RP strength and just Renaissance periodization. I mean, when you guys broke in back in the day in like the CrossFit landscape for me, you guys were talk of the town. We're talking like that 2015, 14 kind of era. So you've indirectly been impacting my life in a multitude of ways. I'll go into it a little bit deeper in the future, but I'd love to give you the floor to kind of just introduce yourself to the audience here, if they don't already know who you are.
Yeah, well, one, thank you. Yeah, the timeline sounds about right. So myself and Dr. Mike started RP. Let's call it somewhere around 2012. The exact date's a little, hazy. But him and I were personal trainers in New York City for a year. And before that, we had known each other from going to school at the University of Michigan together. And so we kind of always were into fitness. And basically, once I met Mike in college, I knew that I wanted to do something fitness related with my life. I just didn't know what. And so we started as personal trainers. But yeah, so him and I started RP. We've been doing it for over a decade. Also, I don't know. Now I'm technically the CEO and co-founder of RP, but been doing it for a while and have dabbled in some competitive physique and powerlifting in my days. And that's probably about the intro.
I think you're shortchanging yourself because I believe you have a pro card when it comes to physique. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I got that in 2023. Yep.
Okay. So, that's why are people always trying to be so humble? You don't want to brag about yourself in any way?
I hate bragging about myself. I'd be the worst person. You know what's really funny though? I'm really good at bragging about other people, but I hate doing it for myself. Like if I had introduced like one of my colleagues, I would like lay it on thick. Like super thick, just build them up. But yeah, someone asked me about myself. I'm like, I've done some stuff, whatever.
Yeah, you've done a pedigree of work. I mean, it's hard. It's like a big paragraph, it just keeps going. So we really appreciate you being on the show too. It's really awesome. We got to give a quick humble thank you to Andrew Coates as well for the intro. He's come on the pod twice now. I think that second podcast, right, Marcos, was just so much more in depth on that lifestyle adjustment. It's just really awesome to see how the fitness space, the content that's been created, especially the content you guys are creating, it's just some of the best stuff I've seen, just like the nuance and everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah. One, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be here. Mr. Andrew Coates, he's a connector. He likes to connect people. He is an expert at that. I've been lucky enough to know him for a while and have hung out a number of times with him at different conferences and all that. It's a great dude. Well, hopefully I'll probably see him later this year at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, the breadth of knowledge that I think everybody we've had on at this point kind of is exceeding our humble beginnings and expectations at this point. We're constantly feeling like shit. This started as like a project in 2023 where Seamus and I were just basically like chalking up to like, we should just record shit and see what happens, so they'll be able to be in like good standing with people and slowly just connecting more and more and stealing a people's hour of their time just to talk about like what's going on, especially, your guys' podcast is literally on, whenever it drops, it's like kind of in my ears. So it's like, you get this kind of unique relationship where I know you don't know me, but I feel like I know a lot about you, which is
podcasts are something, man. Yeah. Podcasts are something. People just really like podcasts. It's not, it's not scripted really, right? It's just people talking and having a conversation. And so what's cool is, funny enough, I've just been listening to a podcast. I've been listening to Sean Ryan podcast where he's got on some like dev guru guys. Like, dude, that stuff just gets me hooked because I can't believe some of the stories they're talking about. I've been listening for a couple hours a day. But yeah, I do feel like I've, some of those guys are like, I feel like I know these guys. And they're like, who the hell are you? Well, actually, yeah, funny enough, I'm wearing a GBRS shirt even.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's kind of the cool part about the whole space in general is like, if you stick with it long enough and you come across paths and you're not afraid to ask people, just like, who do you know that would be willing to give you some time? Like you get to have that kind of like super awesome moment. And we, again, you guys in the space and like going back to like how it affected my beginnings, like shit. I feel like it was only 5 years ago. It was like, yeah, I'm still using RP diet templates. And I was like, don't they have like other iterations of things at this point? Like you went to like their first like standalone product.
Yeah, like the Excel files?
Yeah, legit. Like he's like, pulled it up and I was like, I haven't seen this in like 5 years. It was insane.
Yeah.
That's so funny, Marcus. You brought that up. So when I was coaching at this place called Explosive Fit, that's when I got introduced to RP. And like they get like this PDF, like Renaissance Periodization. And there was like a PDF or something like that of like the diet, and then there was these templates. And then the head owner, the coach, is like, "All right, you guys are learning this, and then you're gonna coach on it." And I was like, "All right, cool." Like, it was really cool. That's how I got introduced into it. And then something came along where there was like an app, the RP diet coaching app, but we never got to utilize it because it didn't make sense for the gym just with our members. I think that the Excel format was just kind of just made the most sense for the coaching.
Yep, it makes sense. Yep. Question for you guys: Have you noticed something like when you reach out to people that most people just end up being pretty cool? Like when you reach out and ask them, "Hey, you want to come on?" Most people are like, "Yeah, sure, sounds great."
We really appreciate it. Like we've been humbly blessed. You know, I think Marcos, I'm like serendipitous is the word. It's like sometimes it's like how did that happen? I don't know, because I feel like sometimes these parasocial relationships, you know, you really put some people like, dang, these are our heroes. These are people that we admire. Like their work really does a lot for us and helps our work be a lot better. Like our job's a lot better. And it's like, dang, I get to pick their brains. And they are like, they've been really amazing people for sure.
Awesome. That's good to hear. I have a thought on that because we're kind of cool to just free flow it, right?
Yeah.
I've noticed something. I would love your guys' perspective on it as well. I think when people put other people on a pedestal, I'm not sure that's a great thing. And, you know, with sort of RP getting up there and Mike's really become someone really well known in the fitness space, even kind of beyond the fitness space a little bit now too. Yeah, we've kind of been able to interact with some folks, and maybe if it's not me directly, I've heard some stories. And you know, at the end of the day, people are just people, even if they are quote unquote like famous. Like everyone's got flaws, everyone's got problems, everyone's got issues. And I don't know, man, that when people, because I'm trying to think, like who would I put on a pedestal? Like who would, if I met, I'd be like, oh my God. I was like, Michael Jordan, maybe? But he's got all sorts of issues, man. If you watch The Last Dance, like, you know, he's got some shit going on. But, you know, everyone's just a person. And most of the time, some of the time, not all the time, most of these people are just normal people, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you meet some folks that they kind of got that like attitude, they're better. Like, I don't like that stuff. I don't like that at all. But a lot of times it's just like normal people. Like, Mike just did some filming of Jason Kelsey. Oh, sure. And I was like, you know, I'm a big sports guy. So I'm like, how was it? And he's like, he's just a cool, down to earth guy. And I'm like, that kind of makes sense given his beginnings. Like he was not like this really highly recruited guy, you know, kind of like undersized and all that. And so, you know, I probably just had that chip on the shoulder, but he's not, you know, they were like, no, he did not come across as, you know, like anything other than just a really humble, down to earth, hardworking guy. And I was like, that's awesome, man. You get someone that's, you know, legitimately like quite famous, right? Like he's in commercials, he's all over the TV, and obviously his brother's, you know, dating probably arguably one of the most famous people in the entire world. Like that's cool. You know, that's just cool to see. So just a random off topic thing that as we're mentioning.
No, and that's, to be honest with you, it's kind of, I think what allows us to get people to like recommend our show over other people's at this point is that like, while there is like this core fitness and nutrition kind of background to it, that the talks about these things I think are more important because, you know, obviously we aspire to connect with those like higher level people because like you just said, it's like breaking down those walls of thinking people are quote unquote above you, but we want to know like what it took to get there and like, you know, what drives those individuals to get to, again, like, I mean, my question would be like, is Dr. Mike literally like, is he turned into a character or has he like been that way since 2012?
He's always been like that. He's even more like that in person, unhinged. And what's really funny is if we go back in time to, you know, we talked like RP Diet Coach app came out in like 2019.
Yeah.
And we were definitely more in like the CrossFit weightlifting space back then. And I had to kind of tell him, I was like, Mike, you can't say some of that stuff, man. I'm like, you know, you get on the phone, you can say whatever you want, just, you know, him and I. But I was the one that kind of like reined him in. And then we really started to lean into the YouTube in 2020 when COVID hit and started putting a lot of resources into it. And then, you know, I would just watch some of his content. And yeah, he would say some stuff like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, Mike, yeah, he's probably like a 6. And people just liked it. They're like, that's funny. And then like once 2020 kind of cleared, I think people got a little tired of like the super PC type stuff where you can't like say anything. And I think people just got really fed up with that shit. And so he kind of just started letting more of himself out, and people like authenticity. That's probably the big thing that I learned is like people, and man, people don't want the scripted stuff, right? That's why people like these podcasts. You can just talk for an hour, hour and a half, whatever it is. Or sometimes, something you get these longer ones, like 2-3 hours. You can't script anything when it's 2-3 hours. It's just all raw, authentic. Yeah. That's what people like. And so I feel like in the early days of Instagram, let's call it 2015 up through, 2020, something like that, there was a lot of the faked and staged stuff. And of course you still have that. But now I almost feel like it went so far of like everything's just like perfect that the people that went away from that a little bit, I feel like started to stand out even more. And so that was a big, revelation to myself, because I was like, I wouldn't think that Mike could or should say this stuff, but then he did say it, and then people loved it, and they thought it was funny, and they wanted more. And I'm like, okay, shows what I know. Mike, do your thing. There's a couple things completely off limits, but besides that, just go do your thing.
Yeah.
I think it's like you said, it's like the authenticity, it's like, how do you convey what could be dense, dry material in like a humorous way? And like, I think he has a knack for that, so much so that like, so Seamus and I both work under physicians for like our day job. And my doctor that I work with is really hard to please in some ways, like in a good way, right? He's like, I don't know who I should get like credible information from. And then yet he's like, but I do like how Dr. Mike goes about approaching that and like making it entertaining. He's like, I don't always need the Peter Attia version of the thing, right? Like if I wanted that, I'll go to him. But like to have something that can also entertain me, but educate me, I think that like he's created like a new way of approaching it.
So Mike was on Peter Attia's podcast before.
Yes, I listened to those. Those were great.
And it was funny too, because Mike would try to make some of those jokes, and I felt like Peter he didn't really like, take the bait, so to speak.
He didn't play with it. I remember because I was like, I had to like rewind it a few times. I was like, that was clearly a really good nuanced joke, but like went way over his head, or he's not playing with it.
Yeah, whatever. Either way, yeah, I thought it was funny. Listen, to Peter Attia's, I guess that's him being authentic who he is. Like, I'm sure if he tried making those jokes, it'd be a little weird. So, yeah, it is funny, man. It depends on like what Mike goes on, and sometimes he'll cut it loose a lot, and then other times, because like you kind of realize if you go to make some jokes and then they don't respond, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, know your audience, or know your interviewee and interviewer kind of thing.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think like even listening to you guys, like the banter, I know that there's instances you're like, look, we got to like rein you back in a little bit. You're like so in left field with like your newest series that you're dropping right now with the Aesthetic Revolution. Yeah. You're like, Mike, you're being like maybe a little too bullish on these things. Let's talk about like modern times versus 10 years out.
Yeah. So Mike is super AI heavy. He's really, really into it. And listen, like I think a lot of that stuff is going to happen at some stage. I'm much more skeptical on like sort of the mass adaptivity. I don't know if that's even a word or the right way to phrase that.
Adaptivity or adoption?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's coming. I just don't think it's going to be as easy as he thinks. I could be wrong though. I mean, most people use ChatGPT and AI stuff now. So like, who knows? I don't know. I'm skeptical. A little more skeptical.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because I know you guys have your two apps, right? The RP Diet Coach app.
Yep.
And then the RP Strength. I was talking with Marcus about this because you guys have a lot of data science. Like you have a lot of data. Are you applying some of the artificial intelligence models within there? Like how does that work? What algorithms? Like I know that's like a really like technical, could be super technical, but like how has that been for you guys?
I would say yes and no. I think as AI gets more and more advanced, it could be really interesting to use a lot of that data. Now, obviously, a lot of it's like anonymized. Like it's not, you're not going to go in like some, yeah. So we've definitely done some data science on it before, and we looked at like what types of things make people more successful when it comes to dieting and whatnot. And some of it wasn't super surprising. There was some things that were more surprising. Like for some reason, again, this is a little dated. We'd probably have to redo this again now, but because we always kind of recommend 12-week diets for the most part. But what we found is it's like somewhere around 8 or 9 weeks was kind of the sweet spot where people were the most successful. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's what's just observational, right? I don't know if that's, correlation, causation.
So we have a big cohort that you guys are like pulling from, so you can kind of infer. Yeah.
Does it kind of default to a 12-week diet, or do people get to kind of choose what their duration would be?
You get to choose. Yeah. And so I think there's 3 options. I think there's like, I'm making this name up. I don't know the exact name off the top of my head. Fast and Furious. You can do something a little shorter. You can do the standard like 12 weeks, or I think it's called like highest success. And so again, we did take, we learned that. And then we're like, well, if this makes people more successful, like this should be an option. Like this should be one of the 3 options. You can of course do your own custom thing too, but yeah, like why? Like we want people to be successful, of course, above all else. So yeah, let's use that to our advantage.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to know, like, if people, the self-selection bias, if they picked that thing, if it was like 3/4 of the way for each one of them, that ended up being where that inevitable like point was, like that kind of point of a convergence where they had the best success. And I think it's like you do a 4-week challenge. Week 3 is like the place you're supposed to be hitting people up to say you want to get to one-to-one coaching, right? Kind of like that same thing. It's like kind of right before the end, and that's like probably when you're putting in like your greatest amount of work to kind of get to the outcome.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah, we'd probably have to really unpack that and like probably dig through all the data again, and then just probably just reach out and do some qualitative work and get on the phone and just chat with people and see and kind of combine the two to try to make some sense of it.
Yeah. So I've always had this question though, and then Seamus, I'll let you ask yours. When individuals sign up for like coaching with you guys versus using like the apps, right? Do the clients still use the app for data for the coach, or does the coach just use something completely that's kind of unique to them?
So you can use like you can use both apps if you use one-on-one coaching, and we changed our one-on-one coaching model to make it like a little bit more like high touch. So there's like weekly Zoom calls and whatnot included, but we give people the option. The coach would basically have to tell them what to enter into the app, but like they can. Sometimes people want something simpler. Not everyone wants an app. Sometimes people just want like one of the old Excel templates like we were talking about earlier. And I was like, okay, like we can do that. You can print it out and put it on your fridge. Some people really like that. Listen, I use both of our apps, but there's definitely some times when I'm in maintenance where like, I'm not logging every meal in the diet app because I'm like, oh, my meals are more or less the same. Like I kind of know I've been doing this for so long, it's all in my head. But when I start to get into a more serious cut, like, I start to dial it in a little bit more. But I mean, not every workout, because there's probably been some deload workouts and shit like that where I'm just not putting it in the Hypertrophy app. But like base 99% of my training for the past, 3 years has been in the RP Hypertrophy app. Like I love that shit.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. So that's awesome. What's the point of that? Because I was wrestling with that today as I'm logging my stuff in my Trainerize app. Just like, I don't go back and look at the data, but I know that next week I'll see the numbers and then I'll just try to compete with myself.
Yes.
Right? Is that basically kind of why you always will log it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you think about a progressive overload, right? So you set up a mesocycle, let's say it's 48 weeks long. So for me, you don't have to think, all right, hey, wow, what did I do last Tuesday? What exact weights and reps and all that? No, it's right there. And not only that, but the app programs for you. So it knows, hey, you did, let's say, 135 for 10 last week. So it basically is going to tell you, all right, cool, here's what you're doing the week after. Just a little bit more. Right? Progressive overload 101. And so then once you get done with your first mesocycle, like you could just simply repeat that, but like in basically 2 clicks, it takes like 2 seconds. You have the next 2 months worth of training already programmed out for you. So it can just take all the same exercise, but it'll sort of take where you ended. You get a little deload, get a little break in there, and then it starts you again. And so it's just like everything's planned out. And so there's no way not to progress. That's what I love about it. Because, I lift 6 times a week, so I can't remember every single thing. I could be pretty close, of course, but it's just great. Just log it, boom, 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 click it. And that way, if I want to change some stuff up, like if I'm traveling or, I'm at a different gym and I got to sub in a different exercise because a bunch of people on some stuff, no problem. Boom, like 2 clicks, I got something subbed in relatively close, and yeah, it's good. And it does keep track of, the history. It'll show you like how many sets per muscle group and stuff you're training. Or like if you want, let's say you had to sub in an exercise and you go, oh crap, I haven't done this in 3 months. It'll tell you what you did last time. Like, oh yeah, March 14th, you did this for 115 for 10. And that way you at least have kind of a baseline that you can go off of.
Oh, that's really good. I like that. And I love the hypertrophy landmarks that you guys came out with, that whole like blog series of every like single thing. I feel like I downloaded that so hard, and I think someone made like an Excel sheet out of that like at one time. Does it play into that? Like, let's just say you're doing like a upper body day and you're pushing everything in a certain movement category. It like plays with the reps and sets to hit those hypertrophy landmarks in like that cadence, right?
So the hypertrophy app uses your feedback. So it'll ask you like, hey, how sore did you get? How is your joint pain? How was the workload? What was your pump like? And it'll kind of take all of this data and then it'll recommend volume adjustments for you. So for example, if you're like, this is pretty easy, well, it's probably going to recommend more volume for the next time you train that muscle group. On the flip side of that, if you're like, holy shit, this kicked the crap out of me, well, it's not going to increase you, right? Like it's probably going to keep it the same, if not even decrease it. So kind of use your own feedback on that. So it's like, because not everyone's going to have the same MRV, right? Some people may not sleep, or some people just have shit recovery, or, some people are full-time pro athletes, right? Like they're probably doing everything. They can probably get away with more volume. So it it's able to customize it based on the individual.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. MRV, for those not knowing what that means, what's that, Nick?
Maximum recoverable volume. So like how much volume can you take that you can actually recover from? Because there's a point where you can just do too much and then you can't really recover from it. So for example, if you just get super, super sore and you're supposed to train that same muscle group in like a day or two, okay, well, you probably overdid it a little bit. So like you should probably start a little bit, right? Like there's different volume marks that you can use. But yeah, like, so let's say you're training chest on Monday, of course, Monday, everyone trains chest, and you do, I don't know, 6 to 8, 9 sets or something like that. And, your chest gets sore for like 2 days. And then come Thursday, you're like, oh, just not sore anymore. Like, you're kind of spot on. That's pretty good. That's pretty dialed in. Cause then you train again on Thursday. Again, you probably get sore for a day or two. And then like by the time Monday comes around, you're like, I feel good again. Like that's kind of the general idea in a nutshell.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
How does one, I guess, like, because it's more of a qualitative thing, right? It's more of like a feel and maybe a rating scale, but like in terms of like MRV and then also being able to like maximize hypertrophy, what are some key takeaways that individuals would do, myself included? I feel like I'm seasoned in training, but at the same time, I feel like I still have so much to learn, which is a very weird thing to be in at this stage in the game.
Well, you said earlier you trained CrossFit, right?
I used to. So CrossFit this feels like a past life, but it's been basically since my son was born is when I like hung up the ollies, so to speak, right?
Yeah, sure. Like, so CrossFit's a really interesting one too, because you just have to be so good at so many things that there's like, it's kind of hard to fit in all that volume and all that. So, for example, like, I don't know, during 2020, during COVID and all that, even probably into 2021, probably wasn't until 2022 when I started going back to like full-time hypertrophy. Like I was dabbling in some CrossFit stuff. I kind of just wanted to be the point where like on any given day, if someone's like, hey, fuck you, we're doing Murph, I could be like, okay, fine. All right. Like I can do it.
That level of fitness. Yeah.
Something like that. Right. But I remember like when I first started training hypertrophy, I would send some videos to Mike and Jared and they basically laughed at me. They're like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? And I was just going really fast through all the reps and they're like, slow it down. Right. The goal is not to just move the weight around. The goal is like you want to feel it, right? Like the muscles are supposed to do the work. It's not just reps at any cost, at any technique. And I'm not saying CrossFit does that, but it's all about speed, right? So it's like you're not going to slow stuff down, right? To really feel it in your chest. No. That's not the goal of CrossFit. Like you just want to blast that shit out as fast as you can because it's all about reps and speed. But like, yeah, there's totally a little bit of differences and nuance in training. But like it's really hard to kind of judge the MRV. And so I think a lot of it's just kind of going by feel or again, like the soreness proxy is a pretty good one. Like if you're sore for 4 or 5 days after doing something, yeah, I would say that's probably a bit too much. A couple days, probably a good spot. That being said, is that the be all end all? No, because there's just certain muscle groups. I swear to God, you just cannot make those muscles sore. Like my forearms don't get sore. My shoulders, right? My delts, they just don't get sore. Like I could do 20 sets of side raises, just not going to get sore. So it's like there's always a little bit of nuance in all this stuff, but the soreness is probably a good gauge. Are you getting a decent pump? Again, not that any one of these proxies is the be all end all, but you start combining them together and it starts to paint a better picture. Like, do you feel it in the target muscle? Okay, well, that's a good sign that if you're doing, bench press and all it is your shoulders are hurting, okay, you're probably not doing something right. That's probably not ideal. So again, it's like, there's multiple factors in all this.
Yeah.
So if my goal was to truly maximize hypertrophy, you would say lessen the load, feel the connection more, and then allow it to rebuild essentially.
Generally speaking, yes. I think that's better. Are you getting a good pump? Are you getting a little bit sore? Are you really feeling it in that muscle? Not that you have to like slow it down for you doing like a 10-second eccentric. It's like, no, you're just in control of the weight. You're not just slinging it around just to sling it around. Like there's a reason that you're doing that. So for example, like if you're trying to grow your quads, yeah, you can barbell squat. That's totally fine. But guess what? That's going to take a toll on your lower back. It's just super fatiguing. It's like maybe a hack squat, maybe a leg press. Like there are reasons for these things because they're not as fatiguing. You know, like if you're setting in a leg press, it's just not that like soul crushing weight on your spine of like a 400-pound squat. Like it's just something different about it, right?
Yeah.
So, I know a lot of people are just like, well, just lift hard, and I'm like, yes, totally. That's always the biggest variable, right? Hard work. But you can also get a little bit more nuance than that, because when you take a lot of people that work hard and then you start to apply some more advanced concepts, well, you can probably get a little bit more out of it.
Yeah. Talking about legs, I was just talking to our coworker Jason, who's a great coach as well. He finally got some leg press at the military bases, not leg press, a belt squat at the military bases on. He's like, I can finally squat over 300 again or 400 again with this belt squat without breaking my back. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like great. I love that. I feel like nuance, especially with tracking, like using your app, and like kind of what Marcos was saying, right, is getting to know yourself more. I feel like the further and deeper I've gone into the gym, just a few times per week, I'm like, man, there's a lot here. There's like a lot of unturned stones. I'm figuring out different movement variations that like, oh, that's a mind muscle connection that I like better. Oh, that's a leg variation I like better. And it's like, I feel like it's a never ending story of like, I don't think I'll ever master this stuff. Like it's like a great progress proxy, you know?
Yeah, you can always try some different stuff out. I mean, there's some exercises that I really had never done. Like, I hadn't really ever hack squat until, I don't know, like a couple years ago. Funny enough, right now, I'm not training legs really hard. Like, I'm trying to intentionally doing a lot more upper body. But, sometimes you just need to train legs just for a little bit of, like, spirit energy, just for the soul, some hard training. But, yeah, like,
it's like I in the room, the other CrossFitter in the room saying that. I'm not surprised.
Listen, a lot of us work out because, okay, slight side story, but as Mike and I have figured out over the years, or more recently, we don't take a lot of time off. I'm sure you guys are similar, right? Like, when's the last time you've taken more than a week off of training?
I don't remember.
Since we got pregnant with my son and I gained 30 pounds, and I said, fuck that, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, I don't remember for me either, so...
Same. I think when my wife and I went to Italy last fall, I didn't train, but...
And you probably still... feeling good after Italy because you're probably stepping a lot.
Yeah. So here's the thing that we came to realize, and I've been noticing it a lot more, not just in lifting, but just in other stuff too. It's like it takes a lot to get somewhere, right? Like to get some gains, or like, I don't know, it's in a sports skill, whatever it is. I don't know, to make a bunch of money, right? It takes a hell of a lot of work to get there. But then like to maintain it, it doesn't take nearly the same amount of work. Right. So if you're lifting 6 times a week and you got to dial it back to 3 times a week, like, you're not losing muscle. It just takes a lot less to maintain. And that's so freaking cool to realize. Like, should I take a week or 2 off? Yeah, I probably should. Am I going to? Nah, that part's a little, unless I had a really compelling reason, like I'm traveling, vacation or something, then, but even then it depends on where I go on vacation. So like my wife and I, if I go to all-inclusive down in the Caribbean or Mexico, whatever, Cancun, I'm training because I know they got a hell of a good gym and I can just sit around and eat all day. That's awesome. Consider that like my ideal vacation. But if I'm going to Italy and we're doing sightseeing and we're walking all over the place, I don't need to train. I'm going to eat a bunch of pizza and sorbet and all that pasta goodness and walk 20,000 steps a day, and I'm good.
I'm with you, Nick. Like, I'm getting married next week, and we have a honeymoon in Kauai in Hawaii. And the first thing I did when we booked our villa, like the first thing my fiance was literally going like, "Show me the gym." Like, I goes through the photos, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, yes, they got that treadmill that I like. They got those machines. Oh, they got them outside. Book it."
Yeah. Like, it's crazy, man. I know we're all just a bunch of fitness meatheads at heart, but I don't know. As I'm getting slightly older now, I'm like, it probably wouldn't hurt me to take a week or 2 off, but it's just so hard to do that because I don't know, training's fun. I just like training.
Yeah.
I mean, so you mentioned you actually taking full-on deload weeks, though. I've yet to really do that in a sense, like even kind of switch. I kind of treat my transition phase into the new like meso as like my deload week, because week 1 is such a, it's like I haven't done this movement in a while. I just want to feel it out.
Yeah.
Is that a good way of approaching it? Or do you like literally do like some more like traditional people are like, hey, you got to like take it to 50% of the same movements and do 8 reps of everything, quote unquote, by this other book, if you will?
I think either's fine. I saw something was posted recently on like the RP social media, and it was about deloads. And the person brought up a really good point. They're like, I train general population folks. I'm like, I don't deload anyone. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't. Those people don't need it. Those people take their own deloads. They take a vacation. They don't come in for 3 weeks. Like, they don't need a planned deload. You train them when you got them, and you work them hard. For us that train a little bit more seriously, usually I'll get to a point, and again, a lot of this is from experimentation, of pushing the volume, pushing how many weeks I can add on to a mesocycle. And then I just start to feel it in like my forearms, my elbows, something just gets a little achy. And I'm like, yeah, I got to ease off a little bit. And I like my deload weeks too. I'll combine a couple days. I'll maybe like set up some, doctor's appointments, dentists. I don't know, maybe go catch a movie with my wife or something like that. Like just try to run more errands and just have a little bit more freedom. Go get my haircut. Listen, this fine haircut doesn't just do itself here.
Nick's got to fill his time, guys. He's like, I'm not training today. All right, let's go do something else real quick.
Yeah. But I think you're not pushing it in that week. And really that's kind of the main point of a deload, is you're not cranking it all the time. So if you're doing that and you're quote unquote feeling it out, yeah, I mean, you're probably not going real close to failure. You're probably just like, okay, let's see how this feels. You're not going super hard. So like you're more or less, that's the whole idea of the deload, is that you ease back, right? You give your body a little bit of chance to recover, drop some fatigue, and then you're good to go to start training again. So like if you're just feeling it out, and I don't want to call it doing warm-up sets, but like, as long as you're not pushing it balls to the wall, you're good.
I woke up today kind of feeling I think it was more of just like a nervous system thing. Something told me, it was like, there's no way I'm doing 3 sets of 20 back squats today. Like, fuck that. Like, I'm not feeling it. In my head, I wanted to like hit this 20 rep back squat at like 275 today. And I was like, it's just not a shot in hell.
So that's more auto regulation. You're doing it a bit reactively, but that's not bad.
Yeah. But in my head, I was also too, it was like kind of reaching that tail end of like, could I do one more week and kind of see it out? Like, I'm sure once I warmed up, I probably would feel okay. But it, like, at this point, I think I like, I'd squeeze the lemon to like the last, like, to capacity. Like, this is me just doing it for ego more than like any additional like thing in the progression. Because when we started it, it was like, it was 185 and like adding like the top end set being like 10 pounds heavier every week, so it's just like, is it right or wrong? I don't know. But like, I'm just like, what happens if I treat this as like my volume day? And legs. And I think that's part of the experimental stuff is fun for me, but it also disappointed my training partner. He's like, I was fucking ready to hit the 20 reps today. I'm like, oops, sorry.
Dude, yeah, let him go, man, if he's really feeling it. So I will say this, because, there's definitely a lot of people out there that claim they're super badasses in like the bodybuilding space, and bodybuilding's really known for this. There's no reason to ever deload. Like, I feel you. Like, I can fucking train hard too. I can train hard. I've thrown up in the gym before from training. I'll train legs like really hardcore. Deep into a contest prep, hey, I'm showing up. I'm doing everything that I need to. And I would tell those people that are like, you're going to deload one way or the other. You can do it proactively and you can plan it in. Or like these people that just always want to go balls to the wall every single week, like no matter what. Now this is accelerated when you're using performance enhancing drugs, because that can sort of mask some of these things where you don't realize that your tendons are not feeling so great, and then you go do it, and then you blow a pec or some shit like that. Because you're trying to bench 405. Guess what? You're deloading, because now you're not training chest for a while. So you either do it proactively if you're training really, really, really hard, or you just never deload ever, and then you end up hurting something, and then you're out for a few weeks, a month, whatever. So it's like, train hard, train a little bit harder, train a little bit harder, train a little bit. Now, what that time frame is, I have no idea. It might be 4 weeks for some people. It might be 8 to 12 weeks for some people. But at some point, just ease off a little bit, and then you kind of come back to it, and then you're ready to get after it. Like, it to me just seems like a more intelligent way to train. But like what you just said, dude, that's beautiful. Like, you weren't feeling it. Again, I can hear the other people. I can hear these, the bros being like, you're just a pussy. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're always doing it, that's a different story.
No.
Like, I'm not feeling it today. You're like, hey, Jimmy, that's the 3rd time in the last week you've not been feeling it. Okay. Well, like, then you're on to something different. But I don't think the 3 of us here on this call, like, that's a problem.
No. I would have to say that my workout partners would agree that I'm probably my fault is being too consistent. Like, those 5 days that I have dedicated every week are the 5 days, Mondays and Fridays, I don't deviate from like my morning walks outdoors or other things. And it just really helps set the tone for like the intention of the day. And again, I think that training and nutrition and all the stuff of our backgrounds. Like the psychology, there's a lot to learn from the psychology of like doing the hard things like that and setting the tone.
Totally. Oh my God. Yeah.
100%. And yeah, like again, like same thing. I'm like, I'm not getting ready to go do a 20 rep off somewhere. Like I'm like, all right, there's the next phase where I bring it back in. I'll let it go away for 3 months, and maybe I'll get a wild hair up my ass and say like, hey, I'm going to try to hit 315 for 20 reps. I should probably do it in a bulk and not a cut. But that was also part of the things that's contributing here. Seamus's wedding, I was like, I gotta look good even though I'm wearing a barong, so everybody can't see me.
So like this guy here posts up a video yesterday, fucking doing like chest flies, and his shoulders are popping out. So I'm half Filipino, even though I have this pale complexion. Nick, I grew up in the Philippines, and we have this traditional thing called a barong. It's a traditional Filipino shirt. For anyone listening, you can kind of Google it, BARUNG. And it's a traditional Filipino shirt. Our tailor had to ask me twice, like dimensions, because his width is so big, and she's like, no, like I need to, like, he needs to come out here. And I'm like, he's in Vegas, I'm in LA, he's coming out here for this wedding. I don't know if he can come out. Like
I measured into her specifications or his specifications.
We did it.
My only saving grace is my shoulders. The only thing that's strong on me, the only thing I can do is press things. Outside of that, I'm worthless. Tell me to pull over 400 pounds on a deadlift. Nope, not gonna happen.
But she goes like this. She goes, it just doesn't seem real. Like these numbers don't make sense. I whip out a photo of him, and she's like, oh, okay.
Hell yeah, dude! That's the best compliment you could ever receive, right there, man.
Yeah, that's what I told Seamus. Like, I'm trying to make my dimensions too big for this. I'm gonna be busting out of it. So,
dude, you got to be careful because I put mine on, right, and you have to like go in like arms up, and like someone has to pull it for you. So I'm like, there's no stretch to it. It's like a silk.
It's like our scrubs that don't stretch. Yeah, I'm used to it.
It's not like a Lululemon 4-way stretch thing. It's like you got to like get in there,
Well, I'm less human now, Seamus. I'm less human. I'm a little bit lighter. I'm fighting weight, so I'll probably fit into it. There's no way I'm bigger than
Marcos. Is your goal to squat 315 for 20 at some point?
I mean, it's not like I don't have a need for it. I think I've done 315 for 15 or 18, and I bitched out on the last couple. So I think it's still in my head. Like I just need to do it. So
dude, if you could do 275 for 3 sets of 20, like you took a deload week, you kind of came back from that, and you just aimed for one set of 315. I'd be damn shocked if you couldn't do it. You'd be right on.
Well, so each set was building. So the first set was 235, 55, and then 75 in the last week. So okay. I would love to be that strong, but it's it's respectable. I mean, I feel like at 197 is like for those reps is decent, but again, it's no longer about like the ego side of it. Like I want to get better for myself, not because the numbers look cool on social. And today, like I said, I'm just like, belt squat sounds like a better option. So
yeah, dude, it's not gonna. Yeah, it's not as fatiguing. What you just described is SFR, stimulus to fatigue ratio. It's like a term that Mike sort of coined over at RP, but that perfectly describes it. You back squat 275 for 20, your back's fucked. That's just how it is. Belt squat, dude, none of that. It's not. You don't get it in your lower back. It's all legs. And so, like, what's better for building quads? Now, it's all in a spectrum, of course. It's not one's better than the other. It's all relative. But that's a good example of it. You're like, no, my lower back can't take it, right? So I hit belt squats. I can still train my quads really, really well. But now I'm not adding all this additional fatigue. So, like, dude, that's a phenomenal example of it right there. That just summed it up perfectly.
Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned too, the ability to do CrossFit things, even though you don't do it anymore. It's been each year I'll do the open with my wife because she still is an avid CrossFitter. Cool. And, she kind of was like, you're just going to go in and beat us all anyway. And I was like, I'm not even like decent anymore. I'm like, I'm okay. Like I don't hold a candle to anybody at that caliber. The goal back in the day was to try to get to, really the games, right? Like I think anybody that does CrossFit in that era was like, fuck yeah, you can get to that point.
That was like that time, Marcos. It was like really realistic for you, right? Like, cause you were like getting to those levels.
I tweaked the shoulder snatching 275, and that was kind of the end of it, if I'm being honest, when I was like 22. And I was like, well, fuck, I just ruined it for myself. Like that's been a ongoing issue. And then also too, like big fish, small pond, went to like the best gym in town. And then in steps, who is now actually like the world champion of high rocks. She was training with us. So like anytime I was doing a running workout, I was like, why the fuck can't I keep up with this girl? Come to find out she's the best runner and like mixed modal person on earth, so to speak, right now. And then there's also another individual who's been on a games team like 7-8 times. And like, I'm like, okay, I'm not even to their level. So therefore these people don't even make it to the games. I'm not getting there. Like there's no chance, you know? So that was kind of like humbling, but again, like it was still fun as hell. Got me introduced into this stuff and where I'm like, maybe I could be a better coach. And it's like, once it transitioned from wanting to be an athlete to being like, maybe I can make other people better has been the kind of the arc now. So, and
that's cool.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, Nick, honestly, it's like because of you guys. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm trying to get this other gentleman on there. My old boss used to say, like, we don't do templates. You know what I mean? And we kind of talk shit a little bit, but intentionally. It's like because he knew how popular you guys were, that it could draw attention on social media back like 10 plus years ago. Right? Hey, we're going to like, quote unquote, badmouth this and say that we're doing this instead, because this is what I believe is best. And it was just more of like a marketing ploy feeding off of it. So like indirectly, I have you to thank for creating something that someone else could try to like spin off of it and make a business out of.
So yeah, that's really interesting because there's like levels to everything, right? And if you like, because some people take this approach where they just want to, like shit talk. And now again, because again, Mike does a little bit of this too, but it's, the critiquing thing, but you never critique, hopefully this comes off the right, you never critique down, right? You only critique people that are, maybe have more sway or more influence, let's say, right? So there's a reason Mike's, he'll go and critique, I don't know, pro athletes or,
actors,
actors, celebrities, some of these folks. That's just kind of how it works, right? It's the name of the game. So it's what it is.
Well,
social media.
Even a decade ago, it was to that level where you guys were, again, like you said, like, we weren't, I wasn't necessarily doing it. The person I'm working for felt the type of way, right? And did that. And
valid though, because if you put a template in the hands of someone that doesn't know what they're doing, maybe not the best.
Yeah.
You put the template in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing, it's like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And so again, like that's what it was designed for, because when we originally made them, it came out in February 2015, the first ever diet template, so literally over a decade ago. We were like, what would we have used in college? Because we couldn't afford coaching. We were poor college students. Could a couple of us scrapped up and we each pitch in $50 to buy a $100 template that, because we're about the same weight? Like, yeah, we could have done that. Like, did people do that all the time with their templates?
You're speaking to me and Seamus about wanting to go halvesies on the Hypertrophy app, and we still hadn't pulled the trigger because we're like, I don't know if we can commit, because he wants to go train high rock stuff, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm not doing it alone, kind of thing.
The app would be a little bit tougher.
Shared. Well, it's not like Netflix password sharing here, Marcos.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying, like, I know we had talked about it. It's like more to see like the thought process behind what it was for both of us, because of we don't want to reinvent the wheel when it comes to like our patient care. And you're like, you have 3, 4, 5 day splits in there. We never actually pulled the trigger on it, because now you're mentioning, hey, like it tailors it to you, so you should probably do it yourself. And we were more so just wanting to be like, what better way to like learn about like coaching theory than to have something that's like obviously built off of your guys' brains without being able to pick your brain. Well, now we're picking your brain, so now we kind of have a better landscape of it.
Yeah. No, totally. No. All good stuff, man. I don't get offended by any of it. Like, I just remember people would be like, hey, someone's using your templates at the gym. I'm like, all right, what do you want me to do? You want me to go chase them down and threaten them? I was always of the opinion, especially with the ebooks. I mean, you can find them anywhere you want online for free if you look hard enough. It's just the way digital products work. And so, at first you get really offended. You're like, how dare you? The audacity of some folks. And you want to, like white knight it and everything. And then you're like, well, people are reading this stuff for free and they're using it and they're talking about it. It's like, that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
But it's a trade-off of digital products as well.
Oh, yeah. It's a lead funnel at the end of the day, I feel like, nowadays, because everybody's ripping from everybody and using whatever thing that someone else created. And
information is very easy to come by. Dude, like, people never have to buy anything from us if they watch our YouTube channel enough. You can build your own stuff. That's not how most people operate, though. Some people do, but it's a small percentage.
I think the willingness for you guys to recognize that, though, is also what makes me admire you guys, because you do spend so much time putting out that, like, disseminating such great information that, like, you can go apply it. Like, hell, there's like a 15-minute arm sequence with like Chris Williamson and like, was it like Jared and Dr. Mike, right? Watch the video and the whole nuance of it. Listen to the, how it's all overlaid. It's like, there's a high production value video for 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, God damn, like, it takes time to warm people up to wanting to then buy the product, right? But you guys are like kind of I think masters of that at this point.
Dude, I love some of those videos, Marcos, because there was a rear delt variation. Dr. Mike Israetel like really explained really well. I think it was on Jeff Nippard's YouTube, and he was talking about like paint the floor and paint the wall in front of you and do this rear delt thing. And I did it the next day, and like I've never had a mind muscle connection like that with the lightest weight that I do with like rear delt flies on like a cable machine. I was like, yo, there's money here. There's money here in this like one little instance, you know?
So if we tie this in, because I remember one time when we first came out with the diet templates, we had one of our coaches back in the day. He no longer works for RP. He's like a head of a university somewhere. It's funny. It's a great guy. He was like, you guys can't release these and no one will ever buy coaching again. And we're like, I don't know. He could be right. We'd never sold them before. So we're like, okay, skeptical that that's the case. And it really just worked the opposite way. It just like kind of brought more people in. People buy a template and they'll hang out in the Facebook group. They'll ask a bunch of questions. They'll see other people, doing the same stuff. And then they're like, you know what? Yeah, I've got a competition coming up. I've got a wedding coming up. I've got, XYZ coming up. Like, yeah, I'm going to hire a coach. And so it really just brought in more people and increased coaching for the longest time. So that was like one of those early moments where, Mike and I kind of figured out, we're like, you know what? Giving away stuff. Well, we weren't giving away the templates, I suppose. We were trying to make some money off of those. Giving away information has really never steered us wrong. And especially in today's day and age, like information is basically free. People aren't paying for a whole lot of information anymore. But it's like the people that are doing that, you're getting a lot of value from. Most people, not all, but like most people, the vast majority, I feel like they're going to appreciate that. They're going to, principle of reciprocity, or like maybe there's just some good karma / juju out there in the world. If that's the thing, hey, cool, I'll take that. But like you give away people a ton of information for a long enough time, they get a ton of value from it. Like they're going to want to support you in some way. Like if they're decent people.
100%. I mean, I was having this conversation with like basically the person that owns the company that we work for, Marcos and I, because he was like a patient today. And one of the things we were talking about was GLP-1s, right? And I know you've talked about this in your aesthetic revolution. And I know that Dr. Mike's gone deep into the videos and you guys could talk about it. And, Marcos and I have been coaching people on GLP-1s ever since like we really introduced them into the clinic and really went deep into the coaching of them, right, Marcos? And I remember everyone was like talking about like, man, this technology is going to introduce, do we need coaches anymore? I think Marcos and I were like, I think you need a coach even more so when you're on these technologies because it's like, for example, it just really helps you understand that there's nuance here. Because it's going to get you to your goal. It's like a predictive algorithm. It's going to get you to your goal. But the wisdom, the nuance, the experience that the coach has seen of the other people that they're working with, they're going to help you out a lot more.
Man, I think with the rise of AI, I think there's going to be even more importance placed on like the role of the human interaction. Because I'm sure you can use AI to automate some like basic stuff, sending emails, sending forms, kind of admin work. Probably automate that out. And that's cool. Like if you can, you should. Because then like, what do you have more time to do? Actual coaching, more time with the client, the patient, whomever. And it's like you hopefully do a better job because now you have more time to devote to that. And like, I don't know about you, like if I'm talking to ChatGPT or whatever, it's not the same as I'm talking to a human. It's just not. It's just not. And so again, this goes back to a little bit of, where I'm just a little bit more skeptical of the timelines on some of this stuff. I think ChatGPT is great. Like I use it a good amount and experiment with different stuff. And one time I was having an argument with my wife and I just didn't understand her perspective. I'm like,
oh, I do the same thing, Nick. I kind of replay it on ChatGPT. It's like, oh, you did this wrong.
Yeah, and I was just like, please explain to me from the female perspective this. And like I've included my daughter too, because my daughter's 11. And I'm like, let me know what's going on here. And I told it, I was like, be real with me. Don't hold anything back. I can take it, I promise. And then it laid everything out. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I'm like, think like that. But it's able to give that perspective. And yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure that's like 1/1000th of a potential use case for it. But again, it's just not the same as like talking to a real human.
I think what you're mentioning is just like the appeal to the emotions, right? And
empathy.
Empathy is such a huge one. And I think that, like you said, I'm finding more ways to want to like talk to people as like for my practice and practices simply because I can move over other like tasks like that I'm going to be able to like actually deliver on. So it's like, hey, I talked with X client about these things and I want to create the deliverable at the end. It's no longer like I'm not worried about what I'm saying, as I know I can spend 15 minutes on the back end or 5 versus an hour to like try to create the deliverable now, right? Like the more tailored thing because of the assist there. So like you said, it's like you have to be able to kind of humanize stuff. And as much as I try to get it to write even a good sales pitch in like my weekly business networking group meeting, right? My 30-second elevator pitch, I was like, it just still doesn't sound like how I would fucking say it, you know? Like it.
Yeah. But it's a good start, right? Like
Yeah.
you can have it do that and you're like, oh, this is a cool part. Okay, cool. I use half of this, but yeah, you got to put your own little spin on it, of course.
Oh yeah.
It's great. That's kind of a great use case of AI, I think.
For sure. You have to have a human to steer it. And I think, man, went down a rabbit hole because I was really trying to figure out how I can create like an agent for just some of my repetitive bullshit stuff. Like it's important, but I'm like, hey, if every day the text message reminder of like all the people on my active roster was like queued up, and then it's like, what kind of message you want to send today? And like you kind of curate it to each person, boom, like you can have better high touch, like you mentioned with your coaches. And I'm thinking like, you know, it went down this rabbit hole, and this guy basically like did this whole like 1 hour podcast / webinar. He's like, I came prepared for you today with this thing. And it literally was like, hey, like, I know you like recording podcasts, like that's part of your business. What if I told you like you hit this button with your uploaded YouTube link and it creates you your blog and your SEO and the whole like other things through like iterative processes? And it was in that moment I was like, shit, I finally understand tokens behind like cryptocurrency. Because basically all these new products that people are creating, you know, you don't know which one might be the best use case for the, you know, the LLM, right? You know, a lot of them exist, but like it's overwhelming as a human to try to think of it. But insert that token or other person that kind of was like, hey, like Claude does this better, ChatGPT does this better, Grok does this better, but like like at the premium level, but like that service provider is like taking a fractional cost to like use that for that brief instance, right? And I was like, oh fuck, like finally a moment of understanding and enlightenment all through these instances of just trying to like, again, get better at doing the one thing, having more time to have with humans. Like, you know. But I think the biggest thing, like you're saying, with the fitness industry, like it's constantly evolving. You guys have obviously talked a lot about like you kind of get to choose to be fat now. You get to kind of choose to be skinny. It's literally like your choice. Let's just say like a cost was not a thing, right? And I think that's kind of like the main premise behind what you guys have talked about on the, you know, on the cadence of the episodes, right? And I thought that was a really interesting thing because a lot of the stuff in the last 4 or 5 episodes you've released at the time of this was really related to, again, like the human mind and like the psychological relationship of like choice, right? It got me thinking in your episodes about the current stigma of like weight transformation drugs and or, you know, the ability to have, you know, other receptor agonists that help with like muscle growth, whatever. You know, there's a stigma around like the ability to choose that right now. And it's like almost to the level of HRT, you know, about 10 years ago, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, like you won't really talk about it. Now it's like, it's openly okay to be like, yeah, HRT is the coolest thing. Every woman should do it, right? Yeah. So how are you guys?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's like, how are you guys going to handle that stigma? You know, you probably have like group things with like your coaches. Like, how are they handling like the mental changes that are going on? Probably that they're noticing with clients as they're probably working with more of them that have access to stuff like this.
I give my own personal thoughts. I can't say for exactly how all of our coaches are handling it. I would suspect it's something along the lines of this: of like, dude, personal choice. You want to use these? Great. Hey, we're here to help and support. You don't want to use them? I mean, that's fine. We're not going to push them on people. But it's like, all right. So let's say someone's like, nah, I don't want to use, you know, GLP-1. Cool, no problem. Here's the plan. They get a few weeks in and they're just really struggling. Hunger's through the roof. Like I just can't stick with it, right? Or they keep falling off the wagon. I mean, my thought process would be, I totally hear you. Here's some steps that you can do to try to alleviate, you know, hunger or why you're falling off the wagon, right? Like try to address it. First step, of course, right? You try to help them problem solve and figure out what's going on. And they come back a couple weeks later, or like each week it's a recurring problem. And you're like, well, we kind of know how to get rid of hunger if that's the biggest thing. Again, not from a pushing it on people, but just like, this is a real thing. It's got all sorts of great benefits. Doesn't really have... It's got some side effects, but minimal, especially if you use them in a controlled way. You're not going crazy on the dosages and you continue to eat pretty well. You're probably just going to see more success. So, I mean, that's how I would approach it. Like, we're not here to push stuff on people. But again, if people keep running into problems and they can't, you know, sort of resolve them themselves or even with a coach's help, okay, I'd be like, We now have other tools in our toolbox. Those tools did not exist several years ago, or like they were not nearly as mainstream and readily available. Like 3 years ago, well, 3 years ago, I guess it was 2022, they were maybe just coming onto the scene. I think in maybe a bit more of a mainstream capacity. Like I used from like a compounding pharmacy, I used semaglutide for my bodybuilding prep to get my pro card.
Yeah. What was how little did you have to use?
Don't remember the dosages now, but I remember I was pushing it in terms of it was a fucking hard diet. I was doing a lot of steps, especially about 4 weeks out. I talked with Jared and my posing coach, and we were like, originally I was supposed to compete in about 6 weeks, and I'm like, hey, there's a show 2 weeks earlier. I'm like, Jared, what do you think? He saw me, and he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you got a shot. He's like, yeah, you'll do well. You know, worst case, you get in front of the same judges that you're going to see in 2 weeks anyway, so it's not a bad idea. It's just kind of more practice, right, going through the prep. So I was like, okay, cool. But again, I hear that, and I'm like, it's fucking go time, baby. Like, I'm pushing the envelope. Did I tell Jared that I was doing, 18,000 steps a day? No, he thought I was probably doing like 15. But that's just how I'm going to operate. That's just how I am. And so I just remember, like, I just wasn't hungry. I mean, I don't remember the exact numbers here. I'd probably have to go look at what it actually was, but 1,600 calories, 1,700 maybe, something like that. And I was lifting 6 times a week. Doing.
How much you weigh, Nick?
I stepped on stage at around 200. It was not a lot, but I just was not hungry. And normally I'd be chewing gum all the time. Like I'd be crushing diet sodas. I'd be having these
trying to get through
big ass fucking salads, right? So just curb that hunger a little bit. I just couldn't do it. I'd have a Diet Coke or something like that. But if I tried having another one, 2 hours later, I'd be like, can't do it. So like it works.
Yeah.
It works. I now have talked to enough people, know enough people that have used them. Man, they're pretty cool. And myself, I'm actually using retatrutide right now. And I'm going to get my blood work done again tomorrow morning. Listen, I would get if all my labs were improving because I was losing weight. That would make sense. That would be kind of a obvious. But like my labs were getting better without my weight changing. And I'm like, because this was like around Easter, I think was the last time. It's been a couple months, I think, since I had labs done. But, I was pretty freely eating. It wasn't, lots of steak. My brother-in-law smokes meat all the time and all that. So like normally I would expect my cholesterol and stuff to be up. And then I got my labs back and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, my cholesterol ratio is like the best it's ever been. Normally that's a problem. Like unless I'm, like really, really lean, I'm like, probably 10-ish% body fat. So like nothing crazy. And I was just like, dude, this is great. Like if these can do that, like without having to lose the weight, because obviously, you lose a bunch of weight, all your stuff's going to improve anyways. But just being on maintenance, like, holy shit, we're onto something. So I'm a fan. I'm not here. I would never recommend it or push it on people. But if people started coming to me with problems, I'd be like, well, this is kind of a solved thing here now.
And this generation, retatrutide is probably the best with lack of side effects as much as possible.
Yeah. Again, they're just going to keep getting better. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think more and more cool stuff's coming. Man, if they can. Because the problem is you get people that don't know what they're doing. They use this stuff. They do lose a ton of weight. They lose some muscle. They're not training. They're not eating enough protein. That's kind of the problem, right? If you can throw in something into the cocktail where they don't lose muscle anymore and they just lose fat, like, holy shit.
Speaking to that, is there a noticeable difference between the semaglutide and the Reta for those exact things? Like, do you feel like there's less of a muscle wasting effect or there's a muscle sparing effect with it? Because I know that's kind of the idea behind the third agonist.
I think I've intentionally been keeping a lower dose on retatrutide because I can eat whatever I want, really. I've not noticed the hunger suppressing, but just again, like if I can just get general health benefits from it, dude, I'll take that every day.
Yeah. That's
a win.
I mean, even some of our physicians, granted, now that we have access to this, it's like, again, I remember 3 years ago, one of our physicians in our Las Vegas office mentioning like, yeah, they're overweight, but like their blood work's the best it's ever looked. So like from a medical standpoint, they're doing a lot of the things really right. Metabolically, they're healthy, all these things, right? There's improvement. And then now it's like, okay, well now there's like that extra dial of this, these new things over the last 3 years. And, again, I think in the right hands, I think with shit, hell, like you give someone like, hey, like you give them a template and like tell them about protein and you give them this thing. And like, if you can't hit this, then you got to move it down, right? Like, having like the and statement there, I think is super effective for the long-term, the longevity of it, right? And I think, you're you're mentioning something that like is kind of like core to mine and Seamus's like heart right now. Like we don't want these people just to get like skinny fat, right? Like they're getting skinnier and then there's just no training or no protein consumption. Like, and also the cost probably gets through the roof if you're maxing it out on dosaging.
Yeah. Dose responsibly. Also the other thing, so I have an online doctor and I was asking her because she saw my labs and I was like, have you been noticing this like with other people? Again, she didn't like say definitively, but she definitely hinted at, she's like, yeah, like it's a thing. Like we're just seeing better labs from people being on this. The pathways and whatever that they're working on, like it appears to be working. Again, I'm very curious to see this new blood work because now it's a couple months later. Again, I've been pretty free and loose with my diet. I've not been super dialed in. Again, not that my weight's going up or anything like that, but it's creeped up a little bit, I suppose, the last couple of weeks. It was Father's Day, right? So that excuse in there. So like, if my stuff comes back better, I expect it to be similar or maybe even slightly worse. If it comes back better, I mean, holy shit, I don't know, like full set.
That's the interesting thing. Yeah, it's like it's the interesting thing because like the off-label use that we've been hearing too, just because we've been around it. Heard some things around PCOS, some things around thyroid, and then some things around like alcohol, and then other things like gambling. Like, and these are physicians. They're just like physicians are like, we don't know why it's happening. They just can't understand the mechanism. It's just these things are the result, and we're trying to figure out the mechanism. And it's like it's every single week. I feel like there's a new case study that's coming out with this. Like every patient, every client, I'm like, how? The
anhedonia, man. The anhedonia of it is a real thing where you just don't find as much enjoyment with a lot of the shit that you used to because of what it does. And it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's a part of a combination of just like the counterculture kind of coming up a little bit more versus all the COVID shit. And we're finally like saying, no, enough is enough. And then you have this other thing there too that kind of helps control, I mean, potentially like that right? So like, it's I find it fascinating. I think you mentioning that, thank you for sharing that. I think that's good for people to hear like how it's being utilized and the improvements they can get. And I mean, do you guys have any plans on having something integrative in a health sense with RP in the future? Or are you guys just purely the nuts and bolts of nutrition and training?
Nothing currently planned. I feel like it's just kind of like a supplement because again, what is our role, right? As coaches and educators, it's like if you can use these GLP-1s responsibly, like paired with good habits and some weight training and just good dietary habits, like, holy shit, you're going to get some really phenomenal results. If you don't have that, you're going to lose weight and your health markers will almost certainly improve. But yeah, we don't want people getting skinny fat either. Like we don't want people losing weight just at all costs. It's like, no. Lift weights twice a week, eat enough protein. You do those, you're probably not going to lose much, if any, lean tissue. And you lose 20, 30 pounds of fat and weight, like, holy shit, you're going to be in a lot better spot. Who knows, man, if we can combine it with something where maybe you actually end up gaining a tiny bit of lean tissue and losing 20, 30 pounds, like, geez, that's going to be trippy.
All right, that's going to be the wild time.
Yeah. Last question for you, Nick, and then we'll wrap it up here. I'll let Seamus ask the last one. But as we were kind of just diving into bits and pieces of everything today, is there any advice you'd like to leave the listeners with regarding their fitness journeys or health advice at this point, and where else they can seek further information? Best place to kind of like listen in and get educated by you and your team.
I think a good approach to fitness and kind of life in general is coming in with a longer term time horizon on stuff. So people chasing that like quick fix and instant results, probably not the best approach. If you go in, hopefully have that longer term time horizon, a little bit more delayed gratification. If you can, again, maybe the GLPs, I don't know, right? If people aren't drinking as much and whatnot, I have no idea, right? It's almost a little bit of a positive impulse control. But yeah, if you can control those impulses a little bit, more delayed gratification, you're almost certainly going to be better off in pretty much all aspects and all areas of your life. And it's easier said than done, of course, but if you can kind of work towards that more and more and try to realize that and try to be more aware of that when problems or issues do come up, I think most people are going to be way better off across the board, not just fitness. And then the second part of that was best spot for information. Go check out the RP Strength YouTube channel. Yeah, that's just because, again, just about any fitness topic you could possibly think of is going to be covered on there, which is great. And, RP Strength Instagram is a pretty good spot too. So this is just a little bit more like lighthearted.